Hello, everyone. Good afternoon. Good morning. Welcome, everyone, to the first community conversation during this year's National Gun Violence Survivors Week, the impact of gun violence on America's youth. To those who are new to our movement, my name is Ashley Castillo. I use she, her pronouns, and I'm part of the Students Demand Action National Advisory Board. Students Demand Action is a national movement of high school and college-aged volunteers working to end gun violence. I'm also a member of the Everytown Survivor Network, a nationwide community of thousands of gun violence survivors of all different lived experiences. Students Demand Action and the Everytown Survivor Network are both part of Everytown for Gun Safety, the largest gun violence prevention organization in the country with more than 10 million supporters. We are currently midway through the 5th annual National Gun Violence Survivors Week, a time to honor and amplify the voices of survivors across the country. I want to take a moment to recognize those who have personally experienced gun violence who are joining us today. Please know that we see you, we honor you, and we stand with you. And if you feel comfortable, feel free to type your name or the name of your loved ones impacted or taken by gun violence in the chat box. Guns are the #1 killer of young people in the United States. Every year, 18,000 children and teens are shot and killed or wounded, and approximately 3 million witness an act of gun violence, with Black and Latinx youth bearing the brunt of this crisis. As young people, we have grown up in the midst of the gun violence epidemic, but many of us are leading the way and advocating for solutions. This afternoon, I'm talking with my fellow gun violence prevention activists about their stories and why they got involved in the gun safety movement. I am joined by Jacoby Mitchell, a fellow with the Everytown Survivor Network and volunteer with Students Demand Action from Charleston, South Carolina. In 2014, Jacoby and his 4 siblings witnessed his brother's father shoot his mother in the face. Jacoby's mother survived. Jacoby is currently a student at Clemson University and is studying biological science to become a surgeon. Marco Vargas, a survivor, social entrepreneur, and proud native of South Central Los Angeles. He's the founder of Fifth Some Pictures, a social impact marketing and consulting company helping nonprofits and enterprises deliver grassroots social media impact in low-income communities. Marco is a Moms Demand Action volunteer. He served on the inaugural Students Demand Action Advisory Board and founded Everytown Summer Leadership Academy. Zachary Mallory, a fellow with the Everytown Survivor Network from Independence, Missouri. They are an LGBTQ+ advocate who focuses on suicide prevention and mental health initiatives as it relates to gun violence. Zachary is a domestic gun violence survivor and also a suicide attempt survivor with a firearm. They are the Diversity, Equity, and Inclusion statewide lead for the Missouri Moms Demand Action chapter. And last but not least, Tana Patterson, a fellow with the Everytown Survivor Network and the founder and leader of Students Demand Action chapter at Florida International University. When Tana was 15 years old, her mother's ex-boyfriend came to her house and threatened her family with a gun. Tana and her younger sisters hid under the couch. You will hear more descriptions about gun violence during this panel, so please take care of yourself and step away if you need to. So we are going to go ahead and get started. So this is my first question for everyone. Why did your personal experience with gun violence motivate you to get involved in the larger gun violence prevention movement? And we're going to start off with Marco.
Hi, Ashley. It's nice to see you. Really proud of all the work you're doing. I'm a survivor of gun violence, and I come from a low-income background. I founded the Summer Leadership Academy for many reasons. I'm very happy that the summer program has become a vehicle for survivors and low-income young people to get involved and also stay involved in gun violence prevention movement. For me, I was born and raised in South Central Los Angeles. It's a community that is disproportionately impacted by gun violence, and throughout my life, I experienced day-to-day gun violence. And I'm talking about gunshots at night, robberies, and even in situations where a gun is used for domestic violence. And that actually was my story, where as a child, my biological father threatened to kill my mother with a gun. And that was a very traumatic experience that for most of my life I did not talk about nor even process. But it was until I was in high school and I learned about Moms Demand Action and Every Town for Gun Safety when I realized that like I could play like one I could like I was a survivor. That really was something that surprised me. And the most empowering thing was that I could do something about it. And the thing that I ultimately decided to do was help young people like me realize that you're a survivor and you can take action. And that vehicle has become the Summer Leadership Academy, which I'll share a little bit more about later.
Thank you so much for that incredible response. Definitely, I feel like the Summer Leadership Academy has had such an impact on youth and myself because that's actually how I got started with Students Demand. So I thank you for that. Next, we're going to go ahead with Jacoby.
Hello, Ashley. Thank you guys so much for having me. So the reason what made me want to join was I first got plugged in this past summer when I went to the gun violence rally in Washington. And I've always wanted to make a change in my community. You know, you as someone who experienced their mom getting shot, as children, that leaves an impact. Gun violence leaves an impact on anyone's lives. And I know that one in our generation, sometimes we have a habit of suppressing our trauma and suppressing our emotion. And you know, for years we dealt with my mom getting shot, but it was certain triggers that was so stuck with us. And what really made me want to join in was to also help people my age know that, you know what, you are a survivor, we can take action, and your story is your story. You don't have to suppress it. You can turn your pain into your purpose. So what made me really want to join was helping others and making others realize that this is a serious issue that is taking place in today's world, and it's still happening at this very moment as we speak. And so I joined it because connecting with other people who have the same drive that I have, which is taking actions and wanting to change, it's just been it's just been such a blessing.
That was a very beautiful answer. I absolutely love that answer. Thank you so much. Next, we are going to go ahead with Tana.
Hello, everyone. Thank you so much for having me. What got me started with the movement was I was threatened with a gun at the age of 15, but I didn't realize I was a gun violence survivor because gun violence was so normalized in my community. But I do believe we live in a country where the loudest voices get heard. So I became passionate about being louder than the gun industry that continues to profit over American people, put profits over American people, louder than police departments that don't care about Black American lives, louder than lawmakers who don't support gun safety legislation, because I believe advocating is the first step of ending gun violence in America. Thank you.
Thank you. I absolutely love your passion. You have so much passion and it just shines through. So beautiful. And we are going to go now with Zachary.
Hello, everybody. My name is Zachary Mallory. I serve as Survivor Fellow, the Every Town Survivor Network. I became involved because I lost my best friend back in 2019 to senseless violence. It's really hard for me to talk about because she was like the number one person in my entire life that supported me from the very first time that I met her. A lot of the administration in my school thought that she would always bully me because she would be putting me around Holly. That was just her way of showing that we cared about each other. She was the very first person that I came out to as gay, and she accepted me from the very beginning. She made a joke to her roommate, and she ended up getting shot, and she was shot and killed on that day, February 17th, 2019. Will be a day that I will always remember. Me personally, I'm a survivor of domestic gun violence, and I had a really in the city group, and she kind of reeled me in. And here I am using social media as my platform to elevate other survivor experiences and to elevate my own, especially during National Gun Violence Survivors Week. This work is extremely crucial, and focusing on diversity and inclusion is my number one goal.
Thank you so much. And I think definitely that's something that we also need to tackle, right? The diversity that comes with this issue because it affects such an array of people. So now we are going to go a little bit more in depth with the Summer Leadership Academy, as we mentioned earlier. So Marco, I want to ask you, you helped found the Students Demand Action Summer Leadership Academy. So what is the Summer Leadership Academy and how did it come about? Can you tell us a little bit more?
Yes, I'm very proud. It was so I started as a volunteer with Moms Demand Action, and it was a very much a discovery process where I recognized that I was a survivor, and Moms Demand Action really helped me understand that I could play a role. And that sort of, I would attend events, I would do rallies. It took some time for me to learn, but after really kind of and it was great because I had amazing mentors like Barbara King. And at some point I realized that as a survivor coming from South Central Los Angeles, there was a need, in South Central Los Angeles, being a community that is disproportionately impacted by gun violence. Like there was a need for like more young people who come from my background, who don't have the resources. And I'm talking about meals, transportation, and mentoring, which are real barriers that prevent low-income young people from entering and staying involved in the gun violence prevention movement. And so I decided to create a summer program and that pilot program was in South Central, which became known as the Summer Leadership Academy. The Summer Leadership Academy is a summer program that's specifically for survivors and low-income young people to learn how to become leaders in the gun violence prevention movement. It's a program that recognizes the importance of removing barriers like mentorship, meals, transportation, so that really that people from marginalized background, they can organize community events, speak with local politicians, and even collaborate with grassroots leaders throughout the United States. I'm really in love with like how the model has evolved over the years. The pilot program started in summer 2019, best summer of my life, and since then we've been able to take the summer program to different cities, working with grassroots leaders like you, Ashley. You've held the summer program before, and really, under take the time to assemble a team of young people who infuse them with the resources they need to be advocates and understand the issue of gun violence, and ultimately to take action. And we've seen the summer program really create amazing leaders like you, Ashley, who after completing the program not only learn about the issue, but they stay involved for years. And I'm really excited to see where the program grows.
Thank you so much for all those kind words. Yes, actually, the Summer Leadership Academy is definitely something that it motivated me because I first joined, and that's how I kind of learned more about Students in Action. That's how I first got involved. And after that, my thoughts were, well, I want to continue this work. I started my own chapter. I now have the chapter at Hollywood High, and I joined the Summer Leadership Academy back in 2021. And now I feel like I'm having a full circle moment because I will actually be hosting the Summer Leadership Academy along with 2 other Students Demand leaders this summer. And it is that same South Central Summer Leadership Academy, the pilot that you were talking about, same Summer Leadership Academy I attended. And when I attended, it was a hybrid format. So it was partly online and then partly the in-person events. But even then, the impact that it had, it wasn't lessened in any sort of way. It still had the same impact. It still provided that same education and that same kind of path for growth for youth who want to continue in this movement and want to keep going for years and years and years. And now just being able to host it and having a seat on the National Advisory Board and seeing how far I've come from the South Central Summer Leadership Academy is definitely something so inspiring. So now I actually want to direct a question to another person who will be hosting or who had hosted a Summer Leadership Academy. Tana, you led this past summer's Leadership Academy in Tampa. What made leading a Summer Leadership Academy such a meaningful experience for you?
Yes, so I definitely also enjoy the Summer Leadership Academy. I was so grateful for the opportunity and I loved everything about it. What really had me motivated to be a part of it was the fact that I was 15 when I became a gun violence survivor and I didn't know I was a survivor. So being able to be a mentor to students who had similar experiences as me and may have not also known inspired me, and being able to tell their story and just, you know, be a resource to the younger generation was very impactful for me.
Beautiful. I absolutely loved your answer. It makes me very excited for this upcoming summer for myself. Thank you to both Tana and Marco.
Yeah,
This
and also if I could just add, I know Tana wrote a very powerful piece that was in Washington DC, but like I've loved over the years to see like students like you, Tana, like really like grow and give this issue a life that I think was missing. Like people coming from our backgrounds, people who just like generally don't have the time and the resources to do really good work, because I think that motivates other people who, you know, are in low income communities to get involved, to learn about the issue. And that's something that I can just say, like, it's been a trend that the movement has transformed in terms of like the 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 leaders who are involved and who stay involved, and it really and it's really important, and we shouldn't forget that that every year, like as we've continued to grow, especially throughout Students Demand Action, that you know, the movement is I think really impacting the communities that need the support the most.
Definitely. Thank you so much for adding that. Yeah, I agree with you. It really does build that pathway for students, especially in those lower income communities. This year's Students Demand Action will be hosting its Summer Leadership Academy in Chicago, Los Angeles, and Miami. So if you are a high school student in one of these cities and you want to apply or want to learn more about hosting a Summer Leadership Academy in 2024, you can email students@everytown.org. So now we are going to move on to some of our other panelists. So Jacoby, my next question is for you. You've done so much work with Students Demand Action in the past year. So what's something that you've been the most proud of, and what's something that you're looking forward to in the next year of advocacy?
For me, I would say something that I've been most proud of is the healing that's been happening all across the world. I've been able to have conversations with, you know, adults, students, and just how they are able to talk about how they've healed past their trauma. And like I said before, a lot of times when we face situations like this very traumatic thing, when we experience gun violence or we've been a witness of it, it can be very tragic. And like I said, it leaves an impact. But to see that people are, you know, saying that I want to heal past this and take action, that's been something that I'm very proud of. And, you know, I'm looking forward in the future to, you know, hearing more voices, to hear more people say, you know what, I'm not going to sit in the darkness and allow this to overtake me, but I'm going to defeat this by going out, by taking action and demanding that action will occur. You know, like I said, our job is not done. You know, it's not done because this is a still problem that we're still facing. And so to get more people out of their house who have, you know, faced gun violence and letting them know, hey, me and you have the same story. We've experienced something so tragic. Let's hold each other hand. Let's walk through it. Let's fight, and let's not give up.
I think you worded that very, very beautifully. That sense of community and compassion that we all have for one another, especially within this survivors network, right? We've all shared that sort of similar experience, and it does bond us in a way. So seeing that more and more of these people are stepping up is really inspiring. Thank you so much for that answer. And next up, we are going to move on to Zachary. So Zachary, can you share with us about how activism has been a part of healing for you?
Sorry, I had to switch to my phone audio. Okay, can everybody hear me okay?
Yes, we can hear you.
So really quickly, sorry about that technical difficulties. So coming to this movie, one of the most rewarding experiences for me. And I didn't realize that I was a survivor until I came to this movement. I just thought, okay, I experienced something super traumatic. I'm just like, anybody else, which I am just like anybody else, even as a survivor. But I came to a Moms Demand Action meeting and I heard other survivors in Missouri speak. And because of that, I ended up sharing my own personal story of overcoming domestic gun violence and, attempting suicide with a firearm. And I felt really connected to the movement. And I started seeing things trending on Twitter. I started seeing different survivors sharing their stories. So I applied to the Everytown Survivor Fellowship program after like a lot of consideration. And ever since coming, I went to the White House last April, and thanks to Everytown, I was able to hear the president speak. That was one of the most rewarding experiences that I probably ever experienced in my entire life. We are Survivor Strong, and we are here to share our stories and to uplift the experiences of others. And I am beyond grateful for everybody in this movement who has came forward, shared their story, and I am grateful to be here today to share this story and to inspire others to get involved, because truly it is going to take us to demand more than thoughts and prayers and to demand policy and action.
That was such a moving and beautiful answer. Yeah, definitely, showing that we are all in this together and that every single individual that is part of this movement is making a difference. Just by being here, just by being in this webinar, just by being a part of this movement, doing what they can, whether that be local, state, nationally. And definitely you are doing some very great things. Thank you so much. So this is going to be my final question for everyone. What is one thing that you are currently excited to be working on, either inside or outside of the gun violence prevention movement? And let's go ahead and start off with Tana.
Hello. So, like Ashley mentioned, I did recently start a Students Demand Action on my campus. And for our signature event, we're going to be having a Bullets Don't Discriminate rally. And we're going to have performances. We're going to do a little protesting. We're going to have different tables set up so that people can learn about Students Demand Action, what we do, and how to join the movement. And I'm really excited for it. This is the first time that, our school's really done something like this in general. So I'm excited to be like the stepping stone and hope to see it continue even when I leave and graduate.
Oh my gosh, definitely. I can see how excited you are. And that sounds absolutely amazing. We all love doing a little protesting and making our voices heard. So that is going to be such a very exciting thing. Next, we are going to go ahead and hear from Marco.
Yeah, so what I'm really excited about is my work at Fifth Pictures. And it's really interesting because I never really imagined myself like pursuing a career in social impact. But, since, I've literally gone to I would say is a career pathway almost that like I started as a volunteer with Moms Demand Action. Students Demand Action began. And then I became an advisory board member. From an advisory board member, I proposed a project that was supported by a grant by Everytown for gun safety, and that became the pilot program of the Summer Leadership Academy. And then, I became a program founder, and then from that program, I did that for several years. I decided to, and I was in college, and I was thinking like, oh well, like, what if I could do this as a full-time career? And I created Fifth Sun Pictures, which is a marketing consulting company for nonprofits and enterprises. And now, like, I'm sitting here 23 years old, literally, a few years since I became a volunteer in a career in impact, continuing to work with low-income students, organizations who on a corporate level are doing amazing philanthropic work, especially closely tied to violence prevention. And so I think I'm a really great example and case study of like what happens when like you take the next step of getting involved. And I know it can be very tough. It was very tough for me. When I first attended my Moms Demand Action events, like I didn't even say I was a survivor. I didn't even feel comfortable talking about the things that the gunshots that I would hear at night in South Central Los Angeles or in my community and things like that. Like, but it took some time, and I was very grateful that, I had a mentor, and that's what you'll find that every time for gun safety and throughout Students Demand Action, that it's really a community where you can, find your people, you can heal, and in cases like mine, and I'm not the only, story where you can pursue a career in social impact, because that's what's possible when you become a part of a community and a network who, comes together behind a cause that, needs a lot of attention, needs a lot of action. And you realize that, like, this is something that you can do full time. And, I mean, I'm a resource. I'm a part of the Everytown community. And I'm by all means feel free. I mean, I'll even drop my email in the chat if you feel free to reach out. But a career in social impact is something that I would say I aspire for folks like you, Ashley, Taina, and anyone who's like an alumni of the Summer Leadership Academy. And I definitely see that happen, and it's been happening throughout Students Demand Action.
Definitely, definitely. Students Demand Action in Everytown really does provide that support that allows you to do things beyond the gun violence prevention movement. And I think you're just a really great example of that. So thank you so much.
Yeah, and I'll also add, and what's important about this, because like volunteering is a privilege, and that especially with people who come from a low income background, like you can't volunteer your way to be consistent in this movement. And so building more career pathways, internships, supporting with grants, like I love that those channels exist now, and that now has created opportunities where now, like, folks are like interning at their local mayor's office through partnerships and doing proposals that are supported by grants. Like, that's the work that I think I continue to see is helping, low income young people who look, talk like us, who come from a background, understand the issue, really pursue this as a career. And I think that's what it's going to take, in part, for us to really make to end gun violence once for all.
I can definitely agree with you. We've already seen the impact of all of the work that you've done, and especially with the Summer Leadership Academy. So that is only just bound to grow from beyond. So thank you so much for adding to that. Next, we are going to go ahead and hear from Jacoby.
So something that I'm most excited to be working on is, I attend Clemson University. And so it's an engineering school. So, a lot of times gun violence is not really the topic when it comes to, being at Clemson. And so something that I've been most excited on working on is actually bringing awareness to gun violence and letting people know that I'm part of Students Demand Action. I'm praying to look in the future by the time I graduate to, get this thing moving where people will consider joining Students Demand Action. And not only that they will also be able to, not be afraid to speak on this topic. There's a lot of people that is on campus that I may not even know who have been a witness or a survivor of gun violence, and they're scared to talk about it because they feel embarrassed. But I want people to know that, you know what, you don't have to feel embarrassed at all. We are all in here as an organization. We're going to all walk together through it. So I've been really excited about that. Recently, I've been talking to people, letting people know that I'm part of Students Demand Action, been telling them what it's about, telling them my story, how my siblings and I are a gun violence survivor. And I just remember hearing someone was like, just looking at your life and seeing all the things, or hearing all the things that you've been through, and the fact that you are saying that you want to do this and you're here today, that person really was nearly in tears. And, what I want people to know that doesn't matter where you came from, doesn't matter the struggle, your background, how poor, how rich, whether your parents were divorced, whether you grew up in a single household, that there is purpose on your life. There's a calling on your life, and that you can use what you've been through and you can turn it into a purpose where you are able to walk and to change other people's lives. I strongly believe in us being the example when it comes to those who are scared to speak on this topic. And so something that I'm most excited about is to actually take this, something that I've been through, take this as my purpose, and to walk and to help people know, hey, I was once you, I was scared. I was I didn't want to talk about it because I felt embarrassed. But now I'm in a place where I can walk confidently with my head high, a smile on my face, knowing that I've been through something. And guess what? Now I am turning this into where we're going to transform and change lives. Our work is not done at all because, like I said, it's still happening to this very day. We are not going to listen. We have years. We're going to still be doing this for years. Like I said, because until a change happens, until people will fully put down their guns, where they can say that when someone is upset with a person, they can sit down and have a conversation with that person instead of say, I'm going to pick up a gun and I'm going to take your life. Our job is not done at all. And what I want people to know in this movement is that when you pick up a gun and you shoot someone, you're not only just shooting that person, but you're taking away someone's spouse, you're taking away someone's sibling, you're taking away someone's daughter, son, someone's husband and wife. And so what I want people to know, what something I'm more excited about with doing the gun violence movement, is letting people know that it's such an important thing, and it's not an okay thing at all. No one wants to hear or get a call that someone lost their life due to gun violence. It's nothing but God that my mom is still here, but I couldn't imagine living without my mom and she's not being able to experience me graduate high school, or my siblings graduate high school, or me being in a college. That was something that would be so tragic. And a lot of people are out here facing that. They're facing their mom not being here to gun violence. They're facing their dad or their brother. We have to realize that this tragic thing goes beyond just shooting someone, but it takes someone away from their loved one for the rest of their life, and that person they can never get back at all. So I'm so super excited about this because I am now able to help people and let people know, hey, I experienced gun violence. It's not a good thing. It was embarrassing going to school in 4th grade and all the kids are looking at you because they've seen it all over the news and they're asking questions, and you're getting pulled into the office seeing if anything is all right. It's not a good situation at all. But as I became older, as I went into therapy, as I healed, I was able to realize that, hey, I'm going to change the narrative. I am not going to be what society say I'm going to be. Oh, if you've been through a lot, then you're going to be nothing in life. Nope, I'm here to let people know that whatever you've been through in life, whether it's good or bad, guess what? You can turn it in and you can change lives.
That was an absolutely amazing answer. And I think it sums up, why a lot of us do this, why we're so motivated, because we need to see that change. And we are going to continue demanding action until we see that change. Because like you said, you are taking that person away for someone's entire life. But not only that, when people survive, right? When people like us survive, survivors, we are here, but a part of our innocence has been taken from us, and it will continue to be that way for the rest of our lives, right? Something is always being taken. You are always taking away from somebody, and you emphasizing on that fact and using that to be able to outreach and network and get more people involved in the movement, because there is a place for every individual in this movement. And the way you just described it and worded it was absolutely beautiful. So thank you so much for that answer.
And sorry, something else. This is also home. This is also home. I want everyone to know that this is home. You're not going to face any type of judgment or criticism at all, because at the end of the day, we've been through the same thing. And something I was just reminded, because a couple of months ago, or last year, my sister lost her best friend to gun violence. That's my sister's best friend. He wasn't even able to see the age of 16. That mother has to live that her child would not be able to walk across the stage and get his high school diploma. That mother has to realize that she won't have grandkids or anything like that. It goes beyond this. And what I want people to know, this is home. This is a family. We can come without judgment and share our story. And there's people who we can classify as our community who say, hey, I want to help you become your best. I want to take you from being shy to not wanting to talk at all, to standing on podiums, panels, and letting people know, demanding. Like I tell people, when it comes to gun violence, you better slap your hands on the table and say, you want actions right now.
Definitely, 100%. We are a community. For those who are interested in joining the Survivors Network, I can honestly say that it has been one of the greatest parts of being part of Students in Action and being part of Everytown, because like Jacoby said, we are a community. We are all a community of people who have experienced a shared trauma, and now we are fighting together to create change, and we are uplifting other voices, not just our own, but we are also receiving that support and also providing that support for others. So beautiful, beautiful addition. Thank you so much, Jacoby. And last but not least, we are going to hear from Zachary.
All right. Wow. I am speechless, not just because of being here today, but because of every single passionate person that is in this movement. And whenever I went to the White House, I was surrounded by so much love and acceptance. I had a really good conversation with Susan Rice about gun violence and like who I was and why I was there. She shook my hand and told me, thank you for the work that you do. So one of the things that I am working on right now is making sure that we are being as diverse, as inclusive, and as equitable as possible in the state of Missouri. As the DEI leader in Missouri, we have, Missouri is no stranger whenever it comes to gun violence. We see astronomical rates of gun violence, and our elected officials just sit there and say, well, thoughts and prayers. I am so tired of hearing about thoughts and prayers. I want to see policy in action and make sure that we are making sure that every single person, including young people, including LGBTQ plus people, including people of color, including every single person from every single background has a seat at that table, not just the top 1%. Thoughts and prayers do not work. Policy and action works, and that is what will save lives. One of the other things that I am working on, I was recently elected to serve as the United Nations Association Pride Affinity Group. So it's essentially the LGBTQ voice of the United Nations Association in the United States. That is something that I am going to work really closely with. And we're going to talk about gun violence. We're going to talk about domestic violence and sexual violence and the number of things that are affecting young people across this country at astronomical rates. That is something that I take really high in, is being a survivor and using my voice to elevate other people, to make sure that we all have a seat at the table, make sure that we are not focusing on thoughts and prayers, we're focusing on that policy and action. We've seen too many times elected officials have failed us as a country, and has taken us steps back. Every time we take steps forward, we take like 10 steps back. We see that. Our actions speak louder than our words, and we need to make sure that we are following up on what we say we are going to do. And by doing that, we're ensuring that every single person is protected. We are saving lives, and we are being as equitable as possible. Let's turn these thoughts, prayers, words, and actions into something that we can look back on, and our future generations can look back and see where we have come far as a country. I don't want them to grow up in a world that you have to be afraid to be who you are. Be yourself, love yourself, and just be you.
Thank you so much for that answer. Yeah, you have been doing some absolutely incredible work, not only with the gun violence prevention movement, but communities and people who intersect with that, right? Like the LGBTQ plus community. I myself am actually part of that community as well. And, seeing how it's affecting us in the safe spaces that are supposed to be for us, for example, like Club Q not too long ago, and knowing that that's something that could have been prevented, right? But because of what has been holding us back, because these policies and these laws are not being implemented or not being executed in a way, then the necessary change that we need is not being seen. And so seeing you advocate for that and advocating, making sure everybody has a seat on the table, like you said, because if you guys haven't heard the quote from Shannon Watts, she says, if you don't have a seat on the table, at the table, you're on the menu. And so that's something that really, really inspires people to say, hey, I need to stand up for my communities, for where I come from, et cetera, et cetera. For example, like with our program Demand a Seat, right? For people who are interested in running for office, whether that be locally, whether that be on a larger level, if you are interested, you can also check out our program Demand a Seat. I completed that program, and it was very insightful for me because I have always considered a career in politics and taking this to the next level and being in a position where I have the power to create these changes because I've been able to see firsthand how they affect different communities. So thank you so much to all of our panelists for those amazing, amazing answers. And now we are going to open up our discussion to our audience for Q&A. And so our first question for Q&A is from Tracy. And Tracy is asking, in addition to financial contributions, what are the biggest areas of support you as young adults need from older adults, such as those of us who are part of Moms Demand Action? And I will open up the floor.
I guess for me, I would say just supporting our events, being there, showing your face, making sure we have the numbers so people know that like we're not the only ones who care. Like even the adults are seeing us and they also care. And just as a friendly reminder, seeing friendly faces. If there is a need for volunteers at the event so we can make sure things run smoothly and that we don't miss things, that can also be very resourceful. And yeah, so I guess like just moral support, being there, showing up for us.
Yes, I would say the same thing. It's just the moral support. And like I said, make it being known. Let's not be silent. Let's not keep our mouths closed or anything like that. But just to be, to share, to be out there, to be proactive.
I would add that I think it's important to get others involved. I know when I first started, I invited my friends to come with me because I felt more comfortable attending events with others. And you should definitely do that. You'll find a great community, but bring your friends and you'll find that you'll learn a lot. And then if you're in a position where you're already involved, then tap someone's shoulders, invite them to the next event or the next call to action, because that could lead literally to several years of wonderful career, personal experience, and as well as healing for those who are survivors.
I would like to echo what Marco was saying. Tap somebody on the shoulder and invite them to an event. And you never know the power that it can have and the impact that it can have on somebody's life just to be surrounded by people who just get it. People who have experienced something, people who have been through a traumatic experience and they don't know a way to connect with others. You never know what you could do to truly make a difference.
Definitely some absolutely wonderful answers from our panelists here. And yes, definitely, having that moral support, inviting people into the movement, creating space for people to be able to join this movement, and also just having people, older adults who aren't from our generation, like Moms Demand, shows that this is an issue that we understand that not only our generation cares about, but we see that the older generations, that other generations that have come before us, see that this is still an issue and that this is still something that they care about, not only for our future and their future, but the future of our children and the future of other generations to come. So seeing that people are still continuing to be passionate about this work for such a long time is something so motivating for us as students. So having that support is absolutely amazing. And now we are going to move on to our second question. And our second question comes from Kiana. Kiana is asking, what challenges do you all as leaders identify in your group work in the community? And I will open up the floor to whoever wants to answer first.
I feel like the challenges that is faced is when you have those who try to acknowledge that or try to say that gun violence is not a thing. in this world today, or where they try to dismiss the situation, or like, you know, when we're fighting for gun rights and things like that, they're trying to say, oh, well, there's people out here who use their gun properly, and you guys are trying to ruin it for everybody who those who do use their guns badly. You're trying to ruin it for everybody. I'm just like, no, 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 no. I'm not trying to ruin it for everybody. What I'm trying to do is trying to make the situation become a sense where at the end of the day, why are people who are unlicensed able to go and pick up a gun? When you look at a lot of situations or a lot of events, from what I've seen, you see a lot of these people are unlicensed. They don't have no weapons permit or anything like that. And so when I had to I remember having a conversation with someone, and he was, you know, very upset, and he was saying like, you know, you guys are out here fighting for this and that. And I'm just like, no, no, no. The thing is, I'm trying to make a better situation. How would you feel if someone was to take your loved one away and they didn't have a weapons permit? You would feel some type of way and you would want to take action. The thing is, I'm not trying to take away the gun rights from everybody. I'm trying to say that it needs to be much more strict inside the whole entire world.
For me, I think a challenge that I face is performative activism. A lot of times you'll get people who say they stand with you and they say that they want to support you and be there for you, but their actions aren't speaking for themselves. You know, it's just a lot of talk. So then you run into issues where, like, you know, you were counting on someone to support you, but they ended up backing out last minute, or it's like, you know, it's not real, it's not genuine, and it's not helpful. So I think that's one of the biggest challenges I face as a leader.
All right. Yeah, two very, very beautiful and detailed answers. Definitely, definitely. Thank you so, so much, talking about not only the legislative aspect, but also some difficulties within the grassroots world, right? Within this movement, the things that we face. So not only from the legislative perspective and from the loopholes and things that we need to fix within our legislation, within our policy, within promoting sensible gun laws, but also, yeah, these issues that really pertain to us when creating and making all of these big events and planning and organizing. It does take a lot of work, and it is a group effort. So definitely having those volunteers is so, so, so important. And now we are going to move on to our last Q&A question. And our last question is, how do you manage to balance school and all of your awesome work as a Students Demand Action leader? And I will open up the floor to whoever would like to take that first.
For me, I definitely would not be able to do what I do without a planner and putting things in my calendar and making sure I check that all the time and making sure I double check that all the time, because it's just, to be organized is like the top priority, and making sure that you don't miss out on things. Because for me, I really love to be involved. Like, I'm probably involved in at least 7 organizations on campus, and that can be very challenging to keep up with all the meetings, all of the events, and you want to be able to like support everything and put your all into everything. In order to do that, you have to be organized. And yeah. And definitely when you realize you're taking, like, you know, you're giving a lot of your time and you're giving a lot of your self, you know, making sure that you're reflecting and you're making sure that, you know, when's the last time I did self-care? When's the last time I like relaxed, made sure that I was okay? Because like, you have to be good with yourself before you can go out and support other people. Because if you're going out and supporting other people and you're not good, then it reflects on your activism, and you don't want to like be half in or like lukewarm with your activism. You want to be all in. And yeah, that's my advice.
I would like to echo about the planner. Trust me, I am involved in a number of different ways, not just with Everytown Survivor Network, but also like a number of other committees, councils, organizations, so on and so forth. And practicing self-care and having a really strong support system can be very beneficial, especially to gun violence survivors. A lot of the times, a lot of us have chosen family outside of like our actual biological family, and sometimes they are a little bit better, to be honest, or at least in my case, that's definitely true. But just really staying organized and staying healthy, it definitely helps, because this work can be very taxing and it can be very exhausting, especially if you are a survivor. That is something that I take very highly into consideration before I join something, is like, what can I do to take care of myself? I see somebody in the chat agreeing about keeping the planner organized and updated. It helps so much. So that's definitely my word of advice, is use a planner as much as possible. I have calendars and notebooks like everywhere to keep myself organized.
And to add to the planner thing, while we're on the topic, you could choose the type of planning you do. It doesn't have to be the written one. There's digital planning too. I recommend trying out both and figuring out what fits best for you. I kind of do a little bit of both. Like, I'll write things down, but like the digital one is the one that's more convenient because you're always on your phone. But writing things down is also helpful because I like to have like a nice looking, I don't even know if I could find it, I would get it. But like, I like to have like a little cute planner because it motivates me to write in it. And if you feel like, oh, this is so cute, I want to put my little sticker that says great job next to this task that I completed and stuff like that. It keeps you writing in it, and it keeps you motivated to write in it, because at times it could kind of feel like just a whole nother burden that you have to like plan out, have all these things on your planner. But if you make it fun, then it feels less like a burden.
Definitely. Those are some absolutely wonderful answers, and I can 100% agree. Self-care, support systems, and definitely that planner. I cannot live without my Google Calendar. I've tried Post-it notes, I've tried the physical one, but for me, it's just Google Calendar all the way. So I think we can all relate on that aspect. So thank you so much to all of our wonderful, amazing panelists, Tana, Jacoby, Zachary, and Marco, for being with us today. And thank you to everybody who joined us this afternoon. Whether you've personally felt the impact of gun violence or not, there are always ways you can support survivors, amplifying the voices of those who have been affected and joining the movement to end gun violence in America. And here are some of the ways that you can do that. If you have been personally impacted by gun violence, we invite you to consider sharing your unique lived experience in your own words by submitting your story to the Moments That Survive website. Momentsthatsurvive.org is a digital storytelling website and campaign where the voices, faces, and stories of survivors puts a spotlight on the human toll of gun violence. For those who have not yet joined our movement and want to join Students Demand Action, text students to 64433. Posting on social media using the hashtag GV Survivors Week, and tagging Students Demand Action. Thank you all again for joining us this afternoon, and I hope you have a great rest of your day. Thank you, everybody.